I used to think being dependable was something to be proud of. My parents sure did. At every family dinner, Mom would lift her glass and say, "To Lily, the one who keeps this family running." People would laugh like it was a compliment, but I always heard the translation, "the one who pays for everything." From the outside, we looked perfect. A neat suburban house, roast chicken in the oven, football humming in the background. Inside, every smile had a price tag. Mom would casually mention Jenna's rent like it was weather. Dad would give me that quiet look when the check came, the one that said, "You know what to do." Even Jenna's hugs came with follow-up texts. "Can you cover it until next month?" 15 years of that turned responsibility into reflex. I told myself I was helping. I told myself I was a good daughter, a good sister. But the truth was simpler. I was their safety net, and nobody ever asked how much weight a person can carry before something tears. Jenna was always the dreamer. She bounced from one creative plan to the next, posting quotes about freedom while her phone bill hit my account. Mom defended her like it was a sacred duty. "She just needs support right now. Honey, you're the stable one." Stable. That word used to sound flattering. Now it felt like a cage with wallpaper. Michael, my boyfriend, saw it before I did. One night, he watched Mom text me a grocery list and Jenna request, "Just a little help," and he said, "You know they love you because it's convenient, right?" I laughed it off, but his words stayed. Quiet, sharp, like a splinter you can't stop pressing. The last dinner before everything cracked was textbook Pierce family theater. Jenna breezed in 20 minutes late wearing a designer coat that could have paid my utilities for months. Mom cooed, "You've had such a hard week, sweetheart." Dad grunted approval like Jenna had accomplished something heroic by showing up. I poured the wine. I refilled plates. I smiled through the heat climbing my neck. My sister's text popped up before I even left for work. "I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out." No greeting, no explanation, just a demand dressed as family. I stood there with a dish towel in my hands, staring at the screen like it had been rehearsed for years. My fingers hovered, waiting for the old reflex: fix it, pay it, smooth it over. Instead, I typed 4 words. "That's not on me." I hit send. Then I opened my laptop and signed the overseas contract I'd been too scared to touch. The confirmation sat on my screen like a door finally unlocked. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again. "Mom, if you won't help your sister, don't come to Thanksgiving." Before we get into it, hit like and tell me, have you ever been the one who finally said no after years of keeping the family together? When they finally left the table, I sat alone staring at the empty dishes and the receipt shoved into my purse like it was normal. My phone buzzed with another reminder, the family phone plan. My name was there, buried under everyone else's. That night, I opened my notes and scrolled through years of transactions: rent, insurance, repairs, birthdays, temporary help that never ended. It wasn't generosity anymore. It was proof of how far I'd gone to buy peace. I leaned back in that quiet kitchen and whispered, "How much longer am I supposed to hold this family together?" And somewhere deep down, a voice I'd ignored for years finally answered, "You don't have to." It started with another Sunday dinner that felt like déjà vu. Same table, same small talk, same performance. Jenna announced she'd quit her latest job to focus on her mental health, and Mom acted like she'd just climbed a mountain. "That takes courage, sweetheart," Mom said, eyes shining with pride. I stared at my plate because a memory hit me hard. Last year, when I took one sick day from exhaustion, Mom called me dramatic. She said I was too sensitive, like my body was just being inconvenient. Jenna twirled her fork, calm as ever. Her boyfriend, Caleb, leaned back, smirking like he'd been waiting for his line. "She's building her brand," he said. "You wouldn't understand, Lily. You're more corporate." The way he said corporate made it sound like a disease. I wanted to ask if brand meant I'd be paying her bills again. I didn't. I was practiced at swallowing things. After dinner, Mom cornered me by the sink, voice lowered like this was private business. "Your sister's going through a hard time," she said. "You can help a little longer, right?" Help. That word had become my leash. I nodded because pushing back never changed anything. It just made the house colder and the phone quieter. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through my notes. Years of payments stared back at me. Rent, repairs, phone plan, insurance. Just this once lines that somehow lasted forever. My handwriting looked like evidence in a case I kept building against myself. Michael texted, "You okay?" I typed, "Just tired," and deleted it. He called instead. "You're not just tired," he said. "You're being drained." "I can handle it," I whispered. There was a pause, then his voice softened. "Handling it isn't living." When we hung up, the words stayed, not as pressure, as permission. 2 weeks later, the crack finally showed. Morning light slanted through the blinds. My laptop was open. Coffee cooled beside me like it had given up. My phone buzzed 3 times in a row. A text from Jenna. "I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out." No greeting, no can we talk, just expectation. For a second, my brain tried to do what it always did. Calculate, adjust, fix. But something inside me shifted. Small and seismic, like a shelf snapping after years of strain. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and stared at the screen. Then I typed 4 words that didn't feel like mine until I hit send. "That's not on me." The message sat there, simple, sharp, terrifying. I waited for the guilt wave, the panic, the stomach drop. It didn't come. Instead, I heard Michael's voice in my head. "Handling it isn't living." My laptop chimed with a reminder I'd been avoiding for months. Dublin, housing included, relocation covered, start date Monday. For months, I'd treated that contract like a fantasy I wasn't allowed to accept because my family needed me standing still, needed me available, needed me scared. I hovered over the signature line, heart pounding. Mom would call me selfish. Jenna would cry. Dad would lecture. I clicked sign anyway. No fireworks, no dramatic speech, just a confirmation on a screen. But deep in my chest, something unclenched like my lungs finally recognized space. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again. "Mom, if you won't help your sister, don't come to Thanksgiving." I stared at it until the screen dimmed. And for the first time, I didn't feel shame. I felt clean. I used to think silence meant punishment, that if my mother withdrew, it meant I'd failed. But that morning, her ultimatum didn't land like a weapon. It landed like a door closing behind me. In this story, I didn't win by yelling. I won by making things simple. I opened my banking app. Recurring payments filled the screen like a confession. My name was tied to things I didn't control, and I'd been calling that love. My thumb hovered over the first one and trembled, just once. Not because I didn't know what to do, because I did. And for the first time, I wasn't asking for permission to stop. I was choosing to. I didn't wait for another lecture. I didn't wait for the next just this once. I sat at my kitchen table and looked at the automatic payments like they were chains I'd been calling love. One by one, I started separating myself from anything I was carrying that wasn't mine. Not with anger, with calm. Because calm is what you need when people are used to you folding. By afternoon, my phone was buzzing like it was trying to punish me back into place. A voicemail from Aunt Rose came first, sweet and syrupy. "Sweetheart, family gives and receives. Maybe you can give a little more this season. God will bless you back tenfold." I deleted it before she finished. Then Mom texted, "Family meeting tonight, 7 sharp, you will be here." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "I won't." The replies came fast. "Don't do this. Stop being dramatic. You're tearing us apart." I didn't answer. At 6:52, my doorbell rang. Not a polite ring. A long press, like someone trying to hold down my courage with a finger. I checked the door camera. Dad was there, jaw set, work shirt still buttoned. "Open the door, Lily," he said. "Don't play games." "I'm not playing," I said through the door. He muttered about disrespect, about how I'd changed, about how I was letting people get in my head. Then he left. They weren't here to understand me. They were here to win. A few minutes later, my phone lit up. FaceTime. Family meeting. I almost ignored it, but I wanted to see their faces while they tried to pull me back into the role. I pressed accept. Mom was in the kitchen with her arms crossed, apron still on like she was busy being innocent. Dad sat at the table, tight-jawed. Jenna was next to him, eyes puffy in a way that still looked practiced. Caleb hovered behind her, smirking like it was entertainment. Mom opened soft. "Can we talk like adults?" "That's what I've been doing," I said. Jenna jumped in. "You embarrassed us, Lily." "You made me look like a beggar." "You sent a demand," I said. I declined. Her lip trembled. "You don't believe in me." "I believed you'd grow up," I said. Caleb laughed under his breath. "She's so uptight." I looked at him. "Do you even hear yourself?" He shrugged. Just a joke. Mom snapped, sharp for 1 second. Enough, Caleb. Then she turned back to me, colder. Your sister's business could change her life. She just needs someone responsible on paper. Dad leaned forward like he was closing a deal. It's a small loan. You'll co-sign, that's all. I repeated it slowly. You want me to guarantee a 6-figure loan for someone who quit her job this week? Mom's eyes narrowed. Don't be dramatic. We raised you better than this. Something in my chest clicked. Quiet and clean. You didn't raise me to say yes, I said. You raised me to survive saying no. Silence. Dad flushed. Watch your tone. I am, I said. It's calm. Mom's voice went hard. So that's it. You're walking away from your family. I didn't flinch. I'm walking away from being your financial plan. Jenna's voice cracked. You're punishing me for being different. No, I said. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. Mom's hand hit the table, the sound sharp through my speaker. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but at least it'll be on my own dime. Then I pressed end call. Messages started pouring in before the screen even went dark. I didn't read them. I set my phone face down, and the quiet that followed didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I sat there for a long minute after I ended the call, staring at my own reflection in the dark screen. Then the messages started stacking up. Mom, you're cruel. Dad, you'll apologize when this blows over. Jenna, you destroyed this family. Aunt Rose, forgiveness heals, sweetheart. They wanted shame to be my punishment. I didn't give it to them. I turned the phone face down and listened to the hum of the fridge, the same sound I used to associate with waiting for the next demand. This time, it sounded like proof I was still here, still breathing, still allowed to be quiet. Michael called that night. I answered on the second ring. You did it, he said. I swallowed. My throat felt tight, but my hands were steady. I think I did. He paused like he was choosing his words carefully. You didn't say no, Lily. You said yes to yourself. Something about that landed different. Not like a compliment, like a truth I could finally keep. When we hung up, I opened the folder on my laptop and pulled up the contract again. I reread the details slowly, like I needed my brain to accept it. Start date, housing, relocation. Real. Then I opened my notebook and made a list. Not dramatic, not emotional, just clear. What was mine? What wasn't? What would end tonight? I didn't write it like revenge. I wrote it like someone finally taking her own life seriously. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No new texts. No family meeting. Just a dull gray light on the ceiling and the feeling of a decision already made. I showered, I made coffee, I packed a small suitcase. Passport, work clothes, charger. A photo of me and Michael by the lake, sunburned and laughing back when laughter didn't come with a price tag. At 11:06, my phone buzzed once. Mom, we won't forget this. I stared at it for a beat, then typed back slowly. Neither will I. I didn't add a paragraph. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain the years. I sent it, powered my phone off, and set it on the counter like I was putting down something heavy. Outside, the air was cold but clean. I locked my door, suitcase rolling behind me across the hallway tiles. Each step felt small, and for once that smallness didn't feel like weakness. It felt like freedom taking shape. The airport smelled like burnt coffee and early morning rain. I moved through security half awake, suitcase wheels rattling over the tile, my phone powered off like a boundary I could finally hold without shaking. When I found my gate, I sat down and did something I hadn't done in years. I just sat. No fixing, no calculating, no bracing for the next demand. When the plane lifted off, the city shrank beneath the clouds, and for the first time, distance didn't feel like running. It felt like choosing. Dublin was colder than I expected. Gray sky, wet streets, air that tasted like salt and new rules. The company apartment was small, 1 bedroom, white walls, a view of the canal. The first night, I unpacked 1 suitcase, brewed tea, and stood at the window until the streetlights flickered on. Everything in that room belonged to me. Every bill, every decision, every quiet moment. A week later, I turned my phone back on. There were old messages I didn't open, and a new voicemail from Mom. Her voice sounded different, not softer, just distant. Jenna found part-time work. We're fine. No apology, no accountability, but also no demand. And that's when I understood something that should have been obvious from the start. When you stop funding someone's comfort, they call it cruelty. When you stop carrying what isn't yours, They call it betrayal, but boundaries aren't punishment. They're honesty. I opened my notes, the same list that used to make me feel trapped, and I scrolled to the bottom. I added one final line. Debt cleared, emotionally and otherwise. Then I closed the laptop and let the quiet fill the room. For years, silence felt like the weapon they used to train me. Now it felt like the life I'd been trying to earn. Because real love doesn't drain you. It steadies you. If you've ever been the one who finally said no after years of keeping the family together, hit like, tell me in the comments what changed for you, and subscribe for the next story.